Welcome to a sunny southwestern Spain, and today we're at a small aerodrome only about 15 nautical miles from the coast, and it's from here that we're going to be taking our first look at famous Flyer 8, the Cessna T207A Stationair. While she may not be the prettiest to look at, she has exceptional short-field performance and has a reputation for being a real workhorse. For a Cessna, she's fairly nippy too, with a 6-cylinder turbocharged engine, and it's available right now for Xbox and PC from the marketplace at an absolute bargain price. The Stationair is from Carenado, and it's one of their best releases in my opinion, and I love the fact they've made it not brand new. This bird's a little bit worn and torn, but as we've come to expect from Carenado, exceptional attention to detail and enough system depth, well, to keep you happy. For our takeoff, it's runway 14, it's a relatively short runway. Let's put the Cessna to test. Welcome to the Sim Hangar, my name's Mark, thank you very much for watching, and let's get started after this message from our video sponsor. Flight Sim Builder is an American-based company that provides navigational units such as the GNS 530 and 430 and G1000 for use with X-Plane and Microsoft Flight Simulator. I have personally used these items and recommend them. If you'd like to know more, check out my videos, link in the notes below. These Flight Sim peripherals allow you to take advantage of the pop-out panels available. In the case of Microsoft Flight Simulator, it's auto configures, and anything you can do in Sim, you can do with these units, and provides great tactile feedback, including twin rotary dials and push buttons, very reasonably priced in comparison to the competition. Link to Flight Sim Builder's website in the notes below. Let's have a quick look around the cockpit before we do a startup. For this I'm using the best head and eye tracker in my personal opinion, the Tobii Eye Tracker 5. Link in the notes below if you want to know more. Fairly standard layout. Here we've got our master and alternator, fuel pump switches, lights, and below that we have the circuit breakers. And of course the Stationair features all the typical steam gauges, as well as a CAP 140 autopilot, transponder, but also includes Garmin's GNS 530 navigational system, one of my favorites actually, 2 tanks left and right, as well as our pressure and temperature gauges. Let's just hide this yoke here quickly, and here we'll find the flap lever, 3 stages available, cabin air controls, throttle prop and mixture, levers as you would expect. Note this aircraft's not a turboprop, it's a turbocharged engine. Here we have rudder and elevator trims, and down here this is where we'll find the cowl flaps, open and closed, and increments in between. Cowl flaps obviously open for start. Our fuel tank selectors right here, and under the pilot's yoke that's the parking brake. So all pretty familiar. Well, time to get ready to go, and let's close the doors. Pilot door closed. Now for the co-pilot, let's close that door. Nice to see functioning doors on the Carenado. I'm in the cargo variant today. There's also a passenger variant and a skydiving variant available with the purchase, as well as a multitude of various liveries and so on. Let's quickly run through the startup. Pre-start check, master and alternator off. Circuit breakers, they're not modelled on this aircraft, so obviously they're all in. Quick cross check to make sure that the cowl flaps are open, which they are. Let's select a tank. I'm going to choose the right tank. Only a very short hop today. To the coast, stacks of fuel. Check the handbrake is on, which it is. And now let's set our mixture lever full in and our prop lever all the way forward as well. Flaps are up. So we can now go ahead and put our master and our alternator switch on, and we can put on our beacon and nav lights as well. And as an important safety check, we need to check the auxiliary fuel pump works. That's the yellow one. Press that on. Then we just need to manipulate the throttle, just push it in a little bit. And on our fuel flow gauge, if we push it in about ½ an inch, we should see it registering something around 8, which it is. Very good. We have fuel pressure, so we can now switch the auxiliary fuel pump off. And that's basically it. We're ready to start. Just check that the prop area is free and clear, but we should be fine. Other than a random fuel truck that's appeared out of nowhere, there's nobody else around. So, prop is clear, and we can now move the magnetos to start. Once again, I'm doing that on the Bravo throttle quadrant. Engine catches, and we have a good start. You want to just move your throttle in a little bit. We want to set it for around about 1000 RPM at idle. If you're going to idle for quite a while, then about half an inch out on the mixture lever as well. We're now ticking over at 1000 RPM. So now we can do our first check on our pressures and temperatures. Oil pressures in the green, which is what we want. Oil temperature starting to lift. Fuel in both tanks, and the batteries charging. Avionics master switch on. This will bring power to our GNS 530 Garmin system. You want to start this as soon as you can, as it does take quite a while to boot up. While we're waiting, pitot heat is on, and the electronic fuel indicator is showing we've got 27 gallons in each tank. The digital fuel readout has a number of different settings and can provide some very useful information, particularly if you're on a longer flight. Today we won't worry about that. Garmin is alive, press enter and enter again. Now we wait for it to pick up the satellites. Our Garmin unit is now alive. We can quickly set the transponder. Again, this aircraft is from the 70s and 80s, so use the knobs to dial it in. And normally we'd leave it on, but we're about to take off. We're not going to be very long on the ground, so I've set it to alt. Strobe lights can come on, and our landing lights as well. Landing lights would normally only be switched on when you're on the runway, and usually after you've done the run-up, but we won't worry about the run-up today. Quick check that our controls are free and clear, so we'll bring the yoke back quickly, but to check it we'll go to the external view. Elevator up and down. That looks okay. Let's test the ailerons for left and right bank, and then finally what we'll do is check the rudder, and once again we'll check full left, full right, and so on. Everything seems to be working perfectly. Barometer has been set. Just hide the yoke again. Just a personal preference, of course. Parking brake off, and we can nudge the throttle forward and taxi out. At the end of the runway we'll just turn around and just pull off to the side slightly, and it's here where you would normally do your run-up. This is not a controlled airport, no traffic in the area, but as mentioned we're not going to bother with the run-up just for the sake of expediency. Quick check on our pressures and temperatures, they're all looking good. Cylinder head temperature only just starting to move now, but we will check the rudder and elevator trims. Make sure they're not out of sync. They're looking okay. And we're now ready to go ahead and line up on the runway, and let's get away. Because this is a relatively short runway, I've decided to put in 2 stages of flaps, or 20 degrees for normal takeoff. 10 degrees is plenty. Let's now advance the throttle. I'm going to push it all the way just to see if the brakes hold, and they are holding and the nose is starting to dip. Release the brakes and let's go. We can rotate if we need to at 60 knots, but 70 knots is preferable. Throttle now to full. 65 knots I've rotated, and we're up. Keeping both throttle and prop full forward, I'm going to bring up that first stage of flaps, help us build up some airspeed. As soon as I've done that, I'm going to come back on my prop. I don't want to overwork the engine. And for the climb today, we're not going very high. I'm looking for something around 24, 25. There we are, that's set. Flaps now fully retracted, and now bringing the throttle back. We're only going to climb to 1500 feet today. We're already 120 knots and climbing at about 500 feet per minute. If you were doing a longer and sustained climb, you'd probably peg something around 800 feet per minute. Drop at 24 or 25. The amount of throttle that you apply will depend on your altitude, of course. Typically somewhere between 25 and 30. Cylinder head temperature now comfortably in the green. This aircraft is a pleasure to hand fly, feels a bit heavy but handles nicely. But let's give the CAP 140 autopilot a test. First of all, I'll just align my heading to match the direction that we're flying, and then we'll engage the autopilot as we head towards the southwestern coast of Spain. Autopilot now engaged, flying with live weather today. Cloud cover seems to be slowly but surely building up, but visibility has remained very good indeed. There we are, we've just stabilized our altitude. I'll now engage the heading mode. We won't worry about nav mode today, even though we've got a flight plan as indicated on the GNS 530. Speed 30 knots, altitude 1,300 feet, so we're just a little bit low. But that's okay, we can let the autopilot manage the climb. The double press of the autopilot button brings up vertical speed, and we only need a gentle climb, so I'm going to set it for about 200 feet per minute, and that's now indicating on the vertical speed gauge. As soon as I hit 1500, I'll engage the Alt button. That's it, it's about 1500 feet, happy with that. And now engaged altitude hold. And we're now heading directly to Cadiz, which of course was included in the recent city update. Let's go and take a look. Well, we've checked the autopilot seems to be working fine, so we can switch that off. This is the sort of aircraft you'll much prefer to hand fly. Come back a little bit on the throttle and let's start heading down. Our route is going to take us directly over, or perhaps under, that bridge there. As we descend, we'll keep an eye on the speed. The Stationair gains speed very, very quickly in the descent. This aircraft and variants of it was very popular in the past, and there's still many examples flying today. Typically the 8-seater, which is the model that we're in today, although it's the cargo variant, was known as the Stationair, and the 7-seater version was known as the Skywagon. And the 207, of course, was just an extended version of the previous 206. Microsoft, you really need to fix up the traffic and actually get them to go along the bridge and not along the water. This has been evident since day one. From what I can tell, there's no manual with this aircraft. I did all the normal searches, couldn't find it. There is a brief set of checklists available from the toolbar. Despite being a relatively large aircraft, Cessna comparison-wise, this aircraft displays great stability and maneuverability at relatively low speeds, and that's why this model became so popular with those flying into short strips, dirt or grass strips and so on. This aircraft was built to last with a sturdy landing gear configuration that can take the knocks and bounces. The price for this aircraft is, I think, around the £12–13 mark. Unless you're on the premium or deluxe version, then I think it is discounted. I paid in the marketplace just under £9. And for me, it was an absolute no-brainer. At lower speed she can feel a little bit heavy in the handling, but I think that's exactly how it would be. Carenado's Tango 207 Alpha is a very welcome addition to my hangar, and I have absolutely no hesitation in recommending it. It's not top tier, but nor is the price. But what it's almost guaranteed to do is put a smile on your face and provide many hours of enjoyment, and in my book, well, that's just about priceless. Well guys, that's just my first look. Here's a quick look at what it looks like with some of the night lighting. Reminds me of the Piper Arrow 3 actually. Anyway guys, I hope you found it useful and informative. Stay well, look after yourselves. I'll see you all again very soon. And ciao for now.